English language teaching. Under the covers.
Hello and welcome to ELT Under the Covers, ELT React, where we as English language teaching professionals, we look at the good and the bad and the ugly of the teaching clips on the internet. We are continuing our follow-up of the direct method stroke audiolingual method with a look at a different company that does one of these methods integrated together, Inlingua. But first, introductions. I'm Neil, our team teacher.
Hello everybody, it's Professor Rich.
Okay, Rich, Inlingua, it's another one of these international, global, world-renowned, multimedia, multi-class, franchisee Inlingua. Do you know anything about them?
I know that these were the company that polyglot guy who, what was his name, Professor Aurelius or something. He spoke like 18 languages, and he said he always looked for the old school Inlingua audio recordings to do shadowing. They used to do a technique where he'd listen to it and say it at the same time to learn a language.
Yeah, because they just have the dialogues, right?
Yeah, and he said the Inlingua ones were the best ones, and he said the new ones he didn't like as much because they put like questions and analysis between the conversation, and he just wanted the conversation. So he said the problem with the new ones is you have to manually edit out all of the like the stuff that all of the teaching and stuff they've added.
That's interesting because normally that was the movement. Because they were all kind of like just like dialogues, and then there was the idea of call and response, which they also did with like kids TV shows as well. You know, like they ask, because it's like, oh, what color is the ball? And you know, like they leave the gap for you to respond and stuff. So it's funny that he didn't want any of that. He just wanted the conversations to copy.
That's the thing as well. And I think a lot of the time people will talk about, oh, this is how someone who knows 20 languages learns a language, so that's the best way. It's like, you're sort of
the best way for him.
Yeah, you're not seeing the wood for the trees like that. I mean, these people are very particular individuals. To be someone who learns like 18 languages, you know, you're a very exceptional person with exceptional mental habits. I don't really know how to say this in a polite way. Let's just say that you've probably got quite a specific personality and set of skills. And
you're the Liam Neeson of language learning. Is that what you're saying?
Something like that. All kinds.
I'm going to find these recordings. I'm going to listen to them, and I am going to learn the language.
Yeah. Look, some people are 7'5", and some people are 5'11". You know, that's how life works. This guy's a 7'5" guy, and you know, he can do some things very well and other things not so well. So it's not a person to look at as a model and say that's how I should do it, right?
Yeah. But the basic premise of Inlingua is this idea of like dialogues that you kind of rotely either memorize or just keep, you know, parroting out. They obviously have moved into multimedia directions because they've not just got the audio now. They'll have apps, they have classrooms where they'll probably do a little bit more CLT type stuff as well. And Inlingua is one of the more recent of these international companies, franchisees that do this. I think they were founded in 1968 in Switzerland, and basically, their method is that they combine like direct and audiolingual approach in a target environment that is 0L1, so it's all in English. And I think it's best if we just kind of jump in. We've got two clips. We've got a lower level and a higher level. Let's just see it in action. I think this is from their official channel.
So, I get up at 6 o'clock. Monica, what time do you get up?
I get up at 6 o'clock.
Good. That's Pablo.
What time do you get up?
Good.
I get up at 9 o'clock.
Okay. Ask Eduardo.
Eduardo, what time do you get up?
Good.
I get up at 6 o'clock.
Good. Ask Rachel.
Rachel, what time do you get up?
Good.
I get up at 6 o'clock.
Good. What's this?
Have a breakfast.
Close. Have.
Have a breakfast.
Okay, take out a.
Take a coffee.
So, what do you think? Pros and cons so far?
This is actually more in line with what I know as kind of like a direct audio lingual approach, but in a classroom. Normally with direct method, it's the teacher that's asking the question, so I do like that she's nominating and getting peer-to-peer kind of interaction. But this is the method, and this is how I imagined it would be in the classroom. Like, this is how I imagine you would do Pilsner in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
More so than other examples that we've looked at.
Yeah. I like this sort of ask this person, ask that person as well, and I liked her praise. Was quite good. I don't particularly like her OTS correction, but then that is a direct method thing. But there's definitely something grating about it for me. I mean, you saw that guy who's suited and booted. You saw him kind of flinch when she corrected him, like he was kind of beating himself up. And that's something that in communicative language teaching we avoid because we don't want to hamper someone's fluency. So that I don't like. I don't like the synthetic language, obviously. Talked about it a million times. But we're getting into some pictures now, so that's kind of interesting. Let's see where we go. It's definitely interesting. I like the setup as well, actually.
Yeah.
I like the way that this is set up.
Take a coffee is later. Have
breakfast.
Good. Okay. Ask me.
What time do you have breakfast?
Good. I have breakfast at 6:30. Good. Pablo, ask Rachel.
Rachel, what time do you have breakfast?
Good.
I have breakfast at 7 o'clock.
Good. Ask Eduardo.
Eduardo, what time do you have breakfast?
Good.
I have breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. What's this?
Leave the house.
Good. Okay. Ask Monica.
Monica, what time do you leave the house?
Good.
I leave the house at 9 o'clock.
Good. Ask Rachel.
What do you leave the
What?
What time do you leave the house?
Good.
I leave the house at 8 o'clock.
Good. Ask Eduardo.
Eduardo, what time do you leave the house?
Good.
I leave the house at 8 o'clock.
Good. Okay. Eduardo, what's this?
Dinner.
Good.
It's definitely interesting, isn't it? And I think one of the things which is very interesting about it is you can tell these students are quite a low level, but they are kind of most of the time they're hitting it. It's probably about an 80% hit rate, which is a bit higher than what you actually need. 70% is kind of the sort of minimum for decent learning, isn't it? So they're doing pretty well. They're saying these things well. They're learning these structures, and they sound not too bad, certainly. So apart from the kind of complete lack of sentence stress, which is her fault, actually. Otherwise, it's good.
Well, and I think, again, I'm going to say it again. I like this as an example. I like this as an example of it done well in class. I want to draw people's attention to the sentence structure that they're using. So they're more or less using the same sentence structure, but now she's introducing via cards that are with the language is elicited and then, corrected if they get it wrong. She's just then putting that new language within that structure. So it's continually building via new vocabulary, but within a structure that they're familiar and comfortable with. So they get to practice that structure, which I would presume that is a fairly new structure because they don't seem to have mastered it. But they're also, so they're practicing that, but also they're adding new vocabulary. And that's what you do with this sort of approach. I think generally what you do with language learning, the issues are, as you bring up, it's synthetic, and, one of the downsides of her eliciting and not having that much teacher talk time is they don't really have a good model, and the model that she might use might be a little bit more synthetic, because generally these sort of companies ask you to kind of slow down it depends, because with Callan they want you to just speak. It's like super fast, probably faster than you would normally, but when they talk about introducing new language, they ask you to slow down and enunciate more. That's the idea, is to enunciate more, but it comes across as synthetic. But I agree with the whole setup. I like what she's doing with the language. I even like the non-verbal corrections. She doesn't say time. She does like a non-verbal prompt. She prompts with this, and that's generally what you would do in direct method. It might not be like you point at time, but you might do a facial expression where it's like, or if you do something verbal, you would repeat something that they say wrong back to them in a question form. Like time. Which I think is good. The only issue, as you said, with Alberto, whatever his name is some people aren't used to this, because you're not being treated as a person, you're being treated as a parrot, basically. Yeah.
It's kind of the old sort of, it's the carrot and the stick thing, isn't it? It's like, slap on the wrist for getting it wrong, and, thumbs up for getting it right, kind of thing. And, I mean, I did like the demonstrating time with the watch or whatever. I just think that, it's kind of the attitude, the way that in these kind of methods that you just cut them down and like really, and I know that is part of it, but it makes everything controlled practice.
Yeah.
And you wonder, will these kind of habits of hesitation, because you're not sure that you're saying it right, this kind of nervousness that the students have in these situations, will that sort of carry on as they move into kind of higher levels and start to develop fluency, and therefore negatively affect their fluency? And I suspect that it will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the big issues with this sort of stuff. And it's one of the things that, if you consider Michel Thomas, who used elements of these methods in his teaching, especially this idea of giving a structure and then throwing it around a bit and making different sentences, and how would you say this and how would you say that, but he really emphasized the idea of the students being totally relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's not happening here. So, that would be my concern. But otherwise, I think there's lots of positives about it.
To actually give you a bit of pushback, there's two trains of thoughts. There's the Michel Thomas kind of idea of just always trying to be in a relaxed state. Just, it's okay. You make a mistake, let's try again. It's cool. Don't worry. And then there's this idea of kind of like what they do in the army, of where they put you in like these live fire situations and just barrage you with noise and chaos in order to lower or just get you accustomed to like an immersion, just get you accustomed to the chaos, because this is what you're going to be experiencing in a war zone, and so you need to become relaxed within that, and all during that time they're shouting at you, pull down your trigger, lock up the blah blah blah, and you just have to listen to them. I hear it puts you into a receptive state if you've got someone that's commanding while in a situation where you're very highly stressed. It's easier to program someone. But I'm not sure about the psychology behind that. But maybe that's something.
We did speak
like
a bit about this, didn't we, before?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's debatable. I would say even if it's the case, there's definitely a balancing act that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And without studies, we're just relying on anecdotal stuff. I don't know of any. I'm not that up to date on what the studies would be regards to the fluency abilities of people who've done different methods. So only going off gut feeling, really.
But the idea of like going, okay, so we want you to learn French. We're going to do some conjugations now. By the way, I'm shooting at you. Yeah, but why are you doing this, teacher? Oh, I just read this study. Probably not the best way. So, just to point that out. But I'd like to see where she goes from here, though. If it's just going to be more of the same, or is it going to be something new?
Ask Pablo a question.
Pablo, what time do you dinner?
Do you
Have dinner.
Good.
I have dinner at 6 o'clock.
Good. Ask Monica.
Monica, when do you? What time do you have dinner?
Good.
I have dinner.
And here we come to the unnecessary overcorrection. I mean, when do you have dinner? Is that really a bad question? When do you have dinner? I have dinner at 8. Does it sound wrong now?
No, but
When do you
it's
have breakfast?
not in the book. It's not in the book. We don't want free thinking right now, Rich. We're learning a language. There's no thinking with.
Yeah. Okay.
At 9 o'clock.
Good. Ask Rachel.
What do you have?
What
time do you have at dinner?
at dinner?
What do you have dinner?
Okay, nearly. What?
What time do you have dinner?
Good.
I have dinner at
Yeah, to be fair, she's pretty good at her on the spot correction.
Mm-hmm.
I think partly I'm trying to put my finger on what it is that really bothers me about it, because she is definitely good at it. Like, she elicited from the student then all of the right. She basically corrected all of her errors in the sentence that the student produced. Actually, I think she did it really well then, and I think in the other instances it wasn't quite as good. Maybe that's what bothered me about it, because it was a bit more. Yeah, it seemed a bit more like she was kind of cutting them down, whereas there it was kind of like, it was almost a bit more encouraging. I would probably be more encouraging than that, you know, because I don't know, there's something about the way she said it, that, like, at dinner, you know. I think I'd probably be a bit more, is it dinner, you know, in a bit more of a kind of whatever kind of way. I don't know. It is a dark art. On the spot correction is a real dark art. It's a real tough skill to do well. And a lot of people who probably think they do it well actually don't do it well.
With this as well, I think they just do it. That's kind of what I like about the way that you do it in direct method, is you are just you do that on the spot correction. You don't consider the students' feelings or response or possible, negative consequences of it. You go in with the assumption that the student knows the method, they know they're going to get corrected, and not to take it personally. She
did use a variety of techniques though. It wasn't just that she said that's wrong, do it again. That's wrong. First she said the kind of questioning intonation of dinner, and then afterwards she said almost, and then the student said the whole thing again and put it together in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there was a bit of kind of thought there. It wasn't just like, no, try again. No. Or the other one, the worst kind of correction ever, when you just feed them the answer, when you say, no, not our dinner, you know, which she did before. That was it. She did that before. She said to her, like, take out the. She actually said that to her. Take out the.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't see the point in that. You know, like if you're just telling them to say something again, but say it like with a solution you're providing, that is not gonna stick. But what she just did then, that might stick, because the student has to reflect and go, what's wrong? Our dinner. Then is it the dinner or no article? There's a bit of mental engagement.
Mm-hmm. That's
which
paramount.
Theoretically means it sticks.
At 7 o'clock.
Good. Okay. Ask Monica breakfast.
What time do you have breakfast?
Good.
I have breakfast at 7 o'clock.
Good. Ask Pablo go to bed.
What time do you have? Do you go to bed?
Good.
I go to bed at 12 o'clock.
Good.
I have to admit that one was pretty good though.
Yeah.
Like she didn't even say anything. She just changed her expression, and the student was like, and corrected herself. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Eduardo, what time do you leave the house?
Good.
You see, because it is actually quite good that how she's like smiling and looking at them, and then if you see them make a mistake, she suddenly starts to like raise an eyebrow and like looks at them like she's about to say something.
I leave the house at 8 o'clock in
Good.
the morning.
Ask Rachel have lunch.
Rachel, what time do you have lunch?
Good.
I have lunch at 12 o'clock.
Good. Go to bed.
What time do you go to bed?
Good.
I go to bed at 12 o'clock.
Good. Get dressed.
It's a
Monica,
well-oiled machine.
Do you get dressed?
Good.
I get dressed at 7 o'clock.
At what time?
At 7.
Good. Okay. So you're going to work together and ask
So, can I just check this?
at what time?
At 7.
Good.
What was the
Do
problem?
you
with
get
her
dressed?
answer?
Good.
I get dressed at 7 o'clock.
At what time?
At 7.
Good.
Can you see anything wrong with her first answer?
No.
So
Oh well.
No.
See, I guess that's one of the dangers of this is that it's so quick fire that you can start, you know, getting a bit trigger happy as the teacher now. It's
Yeah.
like boom, yeah, boom, there's another one. Someone says it absolutely right, and you're like, "Whoa," in the face. Okay, we've all done it. We've all done it. I've kind of made like strange noises sometimes, and then realised that the student was actually right, and I was like, oh no, that's right actually. But then the student looks at you like they don't really trust you. They're like, what do you mean? You made a weird noise.
you're going to work together and ask each other some questions.
What time
Pablo,
do
what
you
time
have
do you go to bed?
breakfast?
I go to bed at
I have
12
breakfast
o'clock.
at
At what time
7 o'clock
do
in the
have
morning.
dinner?
I
Monica,
have dinner at
what
7
time
o'clock.
do you
What time do you
leave
get up?
I get
the
out
house?
at
I leave the house
o'clock.
at
and
8
what time do you
o'clock.
leave the house?
I leave the house at 8
What
o'clock.
time do you get
What
up?
time do you have
I get up
lunch?
at 6
Lunch.
o'clock
I have
in the
lunch
morning.
at 12 o'clock.
Monica, what
And
time do you
have
start work?
breakfast?
I
I
start
have
work
breakfast at 7
at
o'clock. What
9
time
o'clock.
do you start work?
I start
What time
work
It's a nice little activity, isn't it?
Yeah, this is probably as free as you will see it in a audiolingual direct method class.
Yeah, I mean, I would call this a controlled practice, but it's a freer controlled practice.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's as free as you will see, but it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a shame you just don't take it to the next stage, is it? And just say, okay, now, what would you do for something like this? Let me think. Well, it's the kind of thing that would lend itself quite well for a mingle, but they haven't really got enough students for it. One of those things where you have like a table with everyone's name on it, and you have to basically go around and get information from everyone. You
could get them to do role plays or something like that. Come up with a train timetable, and they've got to organize trains to whatever they got it, or flights and I don't know, booking, what have you. But
well, it's not just time, is it? It's daily habits as well.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's the combination. But anyway, I think the rest of this video is just this carrying on. So
yeah, let's spin on to the upper, and we can compare.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I am quite interested. I have to say, so far, this Inlingua teacher seems to be superior to the Berlitz teacher that we saw.
Yeah.
Whether that's a reflection of the method or, I don't know, or just that particular day, the class that was recorded even.
Yeah, and this is in class as well. So the one that we looked at with Berlitz that we're referring to, which you can go just look Berlitz React on our channel. You can see that was online. So maybe that makes a difference because it was fairly new, all this online teaching. So
that's true.
Excuses, but yeah. Okay, so higher level.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, new teacher.
I want you to imagine that
we've got Professor Rich here.
Professor Ricardo, I think maybe.
Yeah, it looks a bit like me, but with darker hair.
Mediterranean Rich.
To Zurich Airport to meet our friend Ursula, who has just flown in from Thailand. All of the passengers come through customs, but Ursula doesn't appear. What do you think?
She might have go to the toilet.
Might have
gone. She might have gone to the toilet.
Good.
She might have missed the flight.
Okay, good. How sure are you?
Maybe 50%.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
And what if you are 99% sure?
She must have missed the flight.
Okay, excellent. Now, I'm going to give you some situations, such as, okay, she's not on the plane. Bruno?
She must have missed the flight.
Good. She doesn't have her passport. Don't forget it.
She must have forgotten it.
Excellent. Claudia, not in economy.
Claudia, Ursula is not in an economy class.
Good.
She...
Buy a first class ticket.
She must have bought a first class ticket.
Good. Not hungry.
Ursula is not hungry.
Good.
She must have eaten on the plane.
Excellent.
It's quite interesting, isn't it, when you see like a group of students who are obviously used to the method and a teacher who's been working with them, and it's like it is a pretty well-oiled machine. You've got to say,
right? Yeah.
He's spinning plates here, and I'm kind of like, yeah. And again, I think I would say as a controlled practice, and even as a demand high, there's a lot to be said for this. I think what the CLT teachers would argue about this, or the CLT methodologists, is they would say, well, if you want to bring these elements into CLT, you just demand high, and that's it. It's just you just bring demand high into it. And maybe if you want to make it a bit more direct method, then you bring in a conversation pattern. So with conversation pattern plus demand high. Alternatively, someone who's into their direct method, they could always just say, yeah, well, you can just tag 15 minutes of freer speaking on the end and have something like a CLT lesson.
Oh, that'd be a spicy comment to drop in a CELTA course, wouldn't it? Yeah, to continue with that train of thought. So we've talked about you've raised a couple of times where what he said was fine. Like, when do you eat dinner, or not? What time does it really matter? But the thing is here, and I think what you see when it's a well-oiled machine and they're using the same structures, they start to build up fluency, and it also helps is if everyone's using the same structure, you can listen and correct that other person in your head if they're not doing it right. And you can, if you forget the model, then you just listen to the next person. So it's kind of like a communal cooperation, a communal agreement to use this structure, to practice this structure. And I think that's what it's a downfall because it's too rigid, but also it's a boon because it's what everyone's using and it's what everyone's agreed to practice, even though other people might do it in different ways. But that's the point. I think one of the big differences between CLT and this is CLT is embrace the personalization of the language, where here is practice the language, practice these agreed structures that we've given you, and that's what you do in this class. What you do outside of the class to personalize it, that's fine. And I think there's good and bad things to be said about both. And I sometimes I don't always get the hate on direct method and Inlingua method when it's done like this, when it's done when it's done correctly and it's done well. If you were to show me that Berlitz one, for example, or even the ones that we looked at in our methodology video, I'd be like, yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from. But when it's done well, and I think that's kind of the issue. And I've got reasons to that, but I'll cover that when we jump out of this video.
Yeah. All right. Let's carry on a little bit.
Now, if you're 99% sure that she didn't miss the plane, because she never misses the plane, what can you say?
She can't have. She can't have missed the plane.
Good. Great. Now, remember before, what did we use for 100% sure? Bruno?
When you are 100% sure,
Yeah.
she must have missed the flight.
Good.
The flight.
She can't have missed the flight, Bruno, because she never misses flights. She must have forgotten her passport.
She can't have forgotten her passport because she never forgets her passport.
Excellent. Karen, lose her ticket.
Ursula must have lost her ticket.
Good. Karen?
I love it. I love that kind of OTS correction. I think it's good. That literally it's just that. He just kind of moved his head and made a face. The fact that I even want to see that again because he didn't even say anything.
This is
lost her.
This is the sort of stuff that they would show on like ESPN if it was for teachers. Let's see that correction face again. Bob, do you see how he just peaks that eyebrow and does a
I think
slight
on the
lean.
where we zoom in and like I'll draw a circle, and we can see the play here. It raises the eyebrow up 45 degrees, and yeah, it's
Must have lost.
it's so good. Must have lost, and he gives him a little as well. It's like the meme. It's like the Drake meme of the.
Yeah.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Her ticket lost. Her ticket.
I love it. I love it.
Ursula must have lost her ticket.
Good.
Oh, great.
Ursula can't have lost her ticket because she never loses tickets.
Good. Excellent. Eat on plane.
Ursula must have eaten on plane.
Good.
Ursula can't have eaten on the plane. Ursula can't have eaten on the plane because she never eats on the plane.
Good. Buy first class ticket.
Ursula must have bought a first class ticket.
Good.
That is impossible because Ursula always buys economy class tickets.
True. Tell me with can't.
It's Ursula can't have bought a first class ticket because she always buys economy class.
Excellent. Excellent. What I'm going to do is give you some sheets to look at, and in pairs. And to demonstrate. Claudia, could you read out the first sentence, please? And I want your conclusions.
He's been to Spain, but he's never been to Europe.
Okay. Is that logical?
No. He can't have been to Spain when he's never has been to Europe.
Okay. Very good. You could say if or because. Okay. You two together? And you two together, please.
Okay. She says she wore this dress at the party, but it's 4 sizes too small
He says he
for her.
parked here just 5 minutes ago,
She can't
but
have
his
worn
car engine
this
is
dress
cold.
at the party because it's 4
He
sizes too small
can't
for her.
have parked here just 5 minutes ago because
I'm
his
not
car's
surprised her
engine's cold.
VCR wouldn't work. There was a small teddy bear
She
inside
says
the
she wore
cassette
this dress at
opening.
the party, but it's 4 sizes too small for her. That's clear. Her
She
VCR.
can't have
Uh,
worn. She can't have worn
can't have worked.
this dress at
Can't
the party
have worked
because
there
it's
was a
4
small
sizes
teddy
too
bear
small
inside
for
the
her.
cassette opening.
I'm not surprised her
She said she
VCR
remembers
couldn't work.
getting up in the middle of the night.
There was a
and
small
opening
teddy
the
bear
window.
inside the cassette
But when we
opening.
woke up, the window was closed.
She can't have opened the window in the middle of the night because it would have.
It's really nice to see the practice activity at the end. Although I think we've probably seen enough of it now. I don't think anything else is coming here.
Mission for a month.
Yeah, it just carries on and on and on. And then what at the very end? Do we get anything else?
Can't have been a person over 18.
Excellent.
Okay, so let me begin. So here we have Inlingua Method. Well done, Inlingua. Not just for this class, but actually uploading a good class and for giving a good demonstration of your method. I think it would be a good marketing for this, because it shows actually what the method does, and it shows it does done well, not just haphazardly uploaded, which is, unfortunately kind of what we saw with the Berlitz Sophia video. So it's one of those ones where you show with Inlingua that it is its own method as well, because we do lump it into direct method, but more often it is that amalgamation of direct method, audiolingual, and their own thing. Because with the direct method, it is more just teacher question, student answer, teacher question, student answer. With audiolingual, it's supposed to be more structures. So maybe we could say the first half was a little bit more direct method, the second half was a little bit more audiolingual approach. But the thing that I wanted to bring up, and that I alluded to before, was the role of the teacher in the class. So often these institutions, like Callum, Berlitz, and Inlingua, you're not considered a teacher per se. You're contractually, I believe, you're an instructor. And here's where I think we see the difference. So when you have an instructor and you've got someone that's just going through the method, you might as well be that person on the Pilmsler course that's just reading out the prompts, right? But what you see in those particular examples is not just an instructor. You're seeing a teacher. You're seeing someone that's skilled, and this just happens to be the method that they're using and their method that they're comfortable with. And they're not just running through the method there. You see the skill in their correction, the skill where they are guiding the students, eliciting and moving along. Yes, part of that will have come from the curriculum and from Inlingua or Berlitz or whatever, but they've owned it, and they've actually added a layer of skill. So I wouldn't say that these people are instructors. I would say that they are skilled teachers, and it takes time to get there, and it takes experience, and it takes reflection and being able to move through that, and through training as well. And just to point out as well that this is from Inlingua, but it's a franchise. So if you go to a different Inlingua place, you might not get this level of a class, because you might not have that teacher. You'll have the same material, but you might not have that level of teacher, because they might not have had the same training, or they've not gone through the process of reflection and refining what they do with the actual method, taking ownership, personalizing it, and moving forward with that. But yeah, my thoughts.
I think that's an excellent point about the teacher and instructor. I really like that, and I think you're right. What we did see there, particularly with the second one, the first one as well to some extent. The second one, I did feel like it was a teacher. There was some personality there, and it was nice. I would do away with the suits, though. Come on, Inlingua, it's not the 1970s, all right? We can do communicative, like maybe it's just because I wear yoga t-shirts for my professional podcast, but we can have a casual work environment. I mean, the students were dressed casually, weren't they? I think there's a lot of things to be said about it. I think that from an advantageous standpoint, I think the students are obviously learning. These are obviously students who've been with the method for some time. They're following him quite well. They're getting exposure to the language. They're enjoying it. It's challenging, and it definitely increases autonomous correction. That's for sure. And that's one of the criticisms of kind of CELTA-y CLT teachers who've gone through this whole student-centric elicitation kind of thing, that they sort of give students tasks that are too easy for them, let them run with it and don't correct them. And this is exactly this kind of stuff is exactly what those teachers are missing. They're missing the challenge. They're missing the good on-the-spot correction, encouraging the student to develop and improve their language. And really, I think that's what Jeremy Harmer and Jim Scrivener were banging on about when they come up with this idea of demand high. And for me, like, what is being shown in these Inlingua classes is exactly that little piece of the puzzle for applying demand high to communicative language teaching, doing some on-the-spot correction, getting students to work with stuff. You know, we did see a bit of it in some of the Jeremy Harmer videos, the teaching demonstration videos, even a bit too much at times, where, you know, when someone says a word, you'll say, oh, what's a synonym for that? What's the opposite? How would you put that in a sentence? I mean, that's a bit of what we're seeing here with these structures. You know, okay, now try adding if, add because. Okay, now do it for breakfast. Now getting out of bed. Now going to see your friend. You know, so I think that whole little framework is an excellent tool set and can be applied in other types of class as well, and I think should be applied in other types of class. I wasn't massively keen on all of the on-the-spot correction that the first teacher did, but I was quite happy with the way the second teacher did it. And I think that the difference there, it's quite subtle, but it's just sort of how intrusive it is. And I think if you can get it to the level where it is just the student sort of says something and you kind of go, you know, without sort of actually deliberately interrupting them, it's almost like you give the student a choice. Like the student themselves can either see your reaction and correct themselves, or they can just sort of keep going on. I think that's the way I would treat it. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be like, oh no, stop there. No, let me. I just need to correct that thing that you said. Just press the Dr. Evil button and they parachute down into
send in the bombers.
I think there's obviously a balance to be had there, where we do want. I mean, on the spot correction, as I said, is a dark art. But it is something that is encouraged. Error correction in general is something that a lot of teachers will just miss out of their classes because it's a headache. And it's a lot easier to just let students run with it and kick back, right? So we definitely need to be encouraging teachers to employ error correction, but in a skilled manner where you're not necessarily causing undue disruption and stress. So that's kind of all the stuff of, you know, kind of drawing out all the positives. On the negative side, it's a controlled practice. It's mechanical. It's not a fluent conversation. And unless you then tag on a freer practice to it, at which point you might as well say that they're kind of hybrid communicative language teaching, then, you know, you're lacking that sort of real world situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that would be criticism, but I think that criticism is not as big a deal as people make it out to be, which comes back to what you said about where these methods get a lot of flack.
Yeah, a lot.
They get a lot of flack, but maybe, you know, CLT, I mean, CLT has been resting on its laurels for a long, long time now. And I think there's a lot we can pull apart with CLT. There are many, many, many tens of thousands of horrible CLT teachers out there teaching absolutely rubbish classes. So CLT, I like it, but, you know, I don't think we should be like crapping on these other methods so much. There's a lot to be learned from them, especially from skilled teachers.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it comes down to the skill of the teacher. And you know, I liked your analogy the other day where you don't see yourself as a teacher as much as a coach now, where you're listening to the person, listening to their problems, and then looking in your toolbox and going, what do they need? And what method, what tool can I use from my toolbox to help them gain that? And when I look at direct method and audiolingual, and this being an excellent example, I think, how can I use this and as a teacher? And I think this one would be great for, say you have some student that's really struggling with conditional. They understand the concept, they understand the meaning, but they getting down the form. Like they're always kind of mixing the past up. That like they're not using the right participle, or even the structure's a bit wrong or whatever. They need controlled practice, and they need a lot of it. And maybe just having a class with them when you're doing something like this, where they have a lot of time of using that structure with multiple different ways, like just changing out some different vocabulary to keep it fresh, but using the same conditional structure, then they can get that mileage, they can get that experience under their belt. And that's how I kind of see these approaches by Inlingua. Is basically someone kind of goes in and goes, I really want to practice the present perfect, and then they can go on a class and they can do just solely that. They could go and listen to the materials or play with the app and do solely that till they gain confidence. And with those classes and with those apps and stuff, it's going to correct them every single time that they get it wrong. And they don't want a CRT class where they go, well, the way you said it is okay. You're just saying it in a different way. But, they want to practice. They want to get good at this particular way. So stop reaffirming that it's okay the way that I'm doing it, because that's not what I want, And I think that's where this sort of stuff can come in, because there is a with CLT, I feel it does lean very into personalization, but there's also, as we've talked about before, standardization as well. So this method, I feel, helps people practice the standardized form of English. And as much as we say, well, there's no standard, everyone uses English in the same way, we have exams and we have tests that they have to pass that are standardized. And if students don't feel that they're be able to practice that standardized version, because they're always going to this CLT teacher that's reaffirming, well, you can just say it how you want, then we're doing them a disservice. And a company's going to step in that's maybe not in it they're in it for solely business ends, where they just want to churn out materials and stuff like that. But they're there because there's a need for it, because it's not been fulfilled.
Yeah, and to be fair, actually, I don't know a lot about Inlingua and their history, but it seems like their method is quite well thought out. I mean, certainly their teacher training must be decent, because we saw two at least decent, if not good or great teachers right there.
That particular franchise, or I don't know if that's the main office that they did that, I would have presumed so, but you don't know for whatever.
Yeah, because like with Callan, it's all franchises, isn't it?
Yeah, and so's Inlingua. So's Berlitz,
okay.
Yeah.
Right. They all are okay.
You get teacher trainers they'll get flown in to help train new teachers and stuff like that. But if it's not reinforced, if the management of that place doesn't bring them in, or they train them in-house, then the training's not so good, or the teachers don't see themselves as teachers, they just like, oh, I'm just an instructor, I'm a backpacker, I'll do this for a year, then you're not going to get that same level. But that's the thing, you're not paying for that, you're paying for Inlingua, you're not paying for the teacher. And that's kind of feel where it goes off the rails, is there's demand for this. There's a demand for this with students, and there's a demand for teachers that can do this well. But if they want this, they can't get it from like a teacher like yourself, because that's not the training that you've had, really.
Yeah, it's definitely not what I do. Like,
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't spend 60 minutes with someone doing that.
Have you ever heard of an independent direct method teacher or audiolingual method teacher?
Oh, there's got to be. It's got to be. But I mean, if you go on iTalki or something like that, I'm sure you'll find them. But you know, I might do a bit of demand high for 5 minutes, but yeah, it's not going to be. Wouldn't be like that. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I can see, you know, I can spot those kind of advantages because, you know, I don't really agree with the sort of, I don't really know what to call them other than sort of CLT extremists, like the people who are really on the side of, oh, it should all be about elicitation, it should all be student centric. Nothing matters as long as it's communicative, as long as the student differentiates sounds. It doesn't matter what sound they make. In other words, it doesn't matter what accent they have.
Yeah.
As long as they're differentiating the sounds, as long as the word doesn't cause a communicative issue, then you don't correct it. And that's the sort of extreme CLT end of it. And I don't really agree with that. Even though I can even understand elements of that as well, you know, and I do value communicative aim over anything else, but that doesn't mean that students don't want to develop a bit more of an English accent, and I think that's okay. And you know, you'll hear English teachers who in the same breath will say, oh, it's perfectly fine for students to have an accent. We don't need to teach them a British accent. And then 5 seconds later, we'll say, oh, God, I learned Spanish, but I didn't want to sound like a British person speaking Spanish. It's like, do you not understand the hypocrisy in what you're saying there? You're basically saying that you don't want to sound British speaking Spanish, but there's no need for us to teach students how to sound British when they speak English. It's something that just doesn't make any sense. The students want it for a good reason. They do want standards. It makes sense. So, yeah, I completely get that as well. And I understand the kind of desire for controlled practice as well. And honestly, I think overall, I was impressed by this. And it's kind of made me consider Inlingua in a different way. I didn't know anything about them before, really. I just knew there was some sort of...
I want to really reiterate that, you know, that example was a great example of Inlingua. And there would have been... I'm sure there's great examples for that for Berlitz and Callan. I just would say it's a great example of combined direct audiolingual method. I wouldn't solely place that on Inlingua. I would place that on the teachers that they've selected to do that method.
All right, fair enough. Yeah.
Because I don't want people to be watching this and going, this is an endorsement for Inlingua, because I honestly, I don't think it is. It's an endorsement for the skill of the teachers in using that particular method. I think if you got some new teachers in there, and, you know, with a year's worth of experience, 6 months worth of experience, trained in-house even, you might not get that same demonstration. And
well, I think on this show we can always advocate for the skill of individual teachers.
I think it is about teachers, and you know, it's also why I do like Dogme so much, because it feels like that solely relies on the teacher and the skill of the teacher. I don't think it's a method that you can go into straight away. I think you need, you know, miles under your belt before you can get there. But we're going to wrap this up. So, Inlingua, well done. Well done for selecting those teachers. The teachers that you chose were excellent. If you are those teachers in the clips that we looked at, we'd love to have you on the show. Send us a message at eltunderthecovers@gmail.com or leave a comment below and let us know. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave us with, Rich?
I think I've already kind of done this is the problem. I kind of give my little summary and then you say, have you got any final thoughts? It's like, I need to start like holding back like a mortar shell for the like final.
What you
Do
don't
I have a final thought? You're damn right. I have a final thought. You know, it's like that Ace Attorney game. Objection.
You should just have like a poem that you can recite, or like an inspirational quote that you just have that you feel.
Oh,
Be
yeah.
like water, my friend.
Yeah. That's right. I should get like a fortune cookie generator. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Do I have a final thought? You bet. My final thought is, you cannot love life until you live the life you love.
There we go. Thanks for watching, folks. If you're looking for more information from myself, you can go to teamteacherchina.com. We've got a whole bunch of materials, PowerPoints that you can use instantly in the classroom. We've got a Team Teacher China YouTube channel where we have videos teaching you how to use those materials. Team Teacher English, where we put those materials into a video form for self-study. And Team Teacher Baby, where I take my experience as a teacher and put that into parenting.
And go to youtube.com/Professor Rich to see some English teaching. You can catch me weekly live streams on Oxford Online English YouTube channel. Oh, and also you can do a YouTube search for POG Space UK, and you would get my alpha version of my new gaming channel, which actually just have some trial content on there at the moment. You can email us here at eltunderthecovers@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to contribute to the show.
Smash that like button, share and subscribe.
And watch 100% of the video and don't click off. Thank you.
Bye.